So first of all, thank you very much. It feels amazing here. And Baib, at the very beginning, she said it's a magic. And I really feel that it's magic what's happening here. I wanted to say thank you not only to our partners, sponsors, speakers, volunteers team, all the supporters, but actually I would like to thank you here in the audience, because this is a clear proof that what we are doing, it's worth doing. So let's give an applause to all of you. But today we have this very important discussion, which actually is a backbone of this movement, how we call Novatore. It's about diversity, it's about equality, it's about equity, it's about this way how we can make the world a better place. And we in Novatore see this through the lens of women's economic empowerment. But it's so interesting that in this journey, which we started around 2 years ago, there have been so many questions about why we are doing this, why we should care about this, why does it matter? And therefore, today, in these 25 minutes, we will try to find out why it's important. And therefore, I'm very happy that we have here researchers, data analysts, practitioners who would answer this question. What does it mean? What does it mean, gender equality? Why we should care? And actually, what is the real situation here in Latvia, in the Baltics, and beyond in a wider Nordic region? I think it's very important, the tone of voice, how we are talking about these issues. And with Baib, we decided that fact, evidence-based, rational discussion is what we need to bring on this table. So, welcome on the stage. And as I said, first of all, let's try to figure out the concept of diversity, equality, the definition basically. So Ilse, what does it mean in your world of researcher?
Exactly. So here I'm talking as a researcher, so I have my academic hat on today. And as it's usual in academic science, there is no one generally accepted definition. So that's where we stand, but generally if we are talking about academic research, we see that gender equality is generally a state of equal ease of access to opportunities and resources, regardless of the gender. And here we are talking about economic participation. Here we are talking about such basic rights as voting rights. Here we are talking about social opportunities in the way how we are raising our kids. So generally, it's a state where both genders have equal access to all the opportunities or all the resource base that we can have. And if we are talking about equity, which you also mentioned, it's generally also about treating both genders fairly. So it means that we are not trying to somehow imply that there is a specific role split, how it should be done. But generally, each person, regardless of the gender, can choose the right path or the right opportunities for him or her.
And this is also part of your thesis.
Yeah, that's actually how my academic hat has been on, and in my thesis I'm focusing on corporate sustainability, and of course diversity and diversity in the leadership teams is a very important component of that.
And one last question, why did you choose such a topic?
Because it's also a topic that I feel to my heart very dearly, and I feel that myself, besides the academic hat that I'm having on today, I also wear the corporate hat, and I've been in the corporate finance field for over 10 years, and that's a field that's generally very dominated by males. So I feel that actually showing evidence, coming up with data, basing on research is one of the tools how we can actually make a change, you know? That we are not just talking about, oh, that's my belief or that's how I feel about it. It's actually showing, well, here is data showing you that having more females in the boardrooms actually improve the profitability, for example. So that's the way how to go about it.
Thank you. So we will come to that later on. Agnija, So what's your definition? Agnija represents here the Forte research company, which helped us to do the first Baltic research on what the situation actually it is at the moment.
Yeah, and I absolutely agree. There are so many definitions and interpretations. What does it mean, equality? So that was the reason why, when we conducted the research, we wanted to specify for our respondents what do we mean by equality. So actually, in the research, we put some examples, such as equality at home, equality in your family, at work, or in your recruitment process, or salaries and wages. But I actually really believe that equality is about opportunity,
Right.
about equal opportunities for men and for women. And even there could be different outcomes and different decisions, but the opportunities are equal for both of the genders.
Yeah, thank you. And Graciela, you came here from Oslo.
I came from Oslo.
So how do you
so.
understand this term?
Well, from a Nordic perspective there, the discussion also in the Nordics tend to have more, right now, more a broadened perspective on diversity. So not only through kind of the gender lens. So topics such as cultural leadership, cultural ability, and of course, inclusive behavior is also very much as a topic.
Inclusive behaviors. Can you elaborate on that?
Well, that means also how, and especially in the business setting and in the corporates, is how we, ensure that the organization is comprised of diverse individuals, and also that they feel respected and valued. So also an inclusive work environment is very important.
Right. I'm just wondering, I was always thinking that Norway is a benchmark and there's already, everything is done there, or there's still things to be done.
There is still across Nordics, even though they have been further away on the path to gender equality, there's still measures to take. And especially what we see now on the gender gap, for example, is still an issue. And also, of course, representation of in management roles is still an issue. So still, there's things to do.
Okay, good. So there's work to be done still.
Yes, definitely.
Now I would like to ask you this question, very important, why? I think there always should be this why. Why does it matter? And also in terms of gender equality, on one hand, this question amazed me. Why we should prove with arguments, with statistics, with research that it really does matter. Because on one hand, I think it's just morally fair. It's how it should be. It's human rights to be treated equally, etc., etc. But still, I feel that, and especially in business room, in business rooms, we should, before we actually start talking about how, we should convince why. And therefore, I would invite you to share your arguments you would use if you would have to convince the audience why we should care. What kind of economic value does gender equality brings? Ilse, I will start with you, as this has been a very dear topic to you.
Yes, definitely. Thank you. So there are several classical management theories that already, like way back, 40, 50 years ago, already talked about that. Actually, companies that are having a more diverse leadership team are benefiting for a broader resource base in terms of greater creativity, in terms of higher productivity, in terms of better networks, so actually having the contact circles, and for example, like today, we are replenishing our contact circles, so that's also a benefit for the companies where we are working. And in terms of academic research and in terms of business research, we see that there are many arguments for having more diverse leadership skills and leadership teams, and one of that is that women are generally perceived as having a better it can be done attitude, and we are better at communicating that as well. So better communication skills, better get things done attitude from side of women is one that actually can boost the productivity of companies. There's other like more practical evidence that, for example, CFOs who are females are less engaged in financial opportunistic behavior, so we are more prudent in terms of financial planning. So generally that also increases the earnings quality of the companies, and there are many other reasons, including the ones that actually the female who are getting towards the boardrooms, you know, who are actually in the management teams, have higher requirements. So they generally have higher expectations from them, and therefore they also have higher professional experience, higher professional skills, and that's a very important argument when we are actually talking about why it matters, right?
So there are only benefits.
There are a few drawbacks, but that's not what we are focusing here on today. But generally, yeah, well, way more convincing arguments for rather than against. There are actually not too many arguments against. It's more that like, does it actually have an impact? You know, so that could be the question. But the vast majority of academic and business research actually says that, yeah, there is a positive impact.
Graciela, anything to add?
Yeah, so we agree that the expectations are high, and we all want to live in an equal society. But also then from as you said, like on a corporate point of view, I think it's very important to really link diversity to the business value. And it was this, I mean, and business value being, if you're gonna, you know, improve creativity or innovation or stakeholder value, or if it is increased productivity or just having employees happier. But really link it to business value, I think that's the key. And just from a Nordic perspective then, there was this Boston Consulting Group survey last year looking into this, and they analyzed 30 of the top companies in the Nordics, and what they found was that only 11% pursue focused diversity efforts with a clear link to business value. So it's not just about doing good, it's also that this is well for businesses. So I think that's important. So what we see then is only that, and we don't hear that many stories around this. What does good look like? And a few companies have just, you know, demonstrated how diversity can be leveraged as a strength and as a source of value and a competitive advantage. So I think this also storytelling and sharing the stories will, you know, be important, and that's also could be, of course, as we know, effective way to foster change.
Yes, I would tend to agree, and one of the reasons why we are doing this summit is also raising women's voice in this discussions about economical issues. So this is very important. Also, by this, raise women's profile in these areas. But we also did research this August together with Norstat and Agnija's team in Norstat company, and there were very interesting findings. Agnija, can you share the most interesting ones, what you find as
some highlights and insights? Okay, before I start about highlights, I just want a little bit show background of methodology. So these were online interviews with 3,300 respondents all over Baltics, aged from 18 till 65 years. And these data are really fresh because it is really like the research was conducted only 1 month ago, so very fresh data. And in this short time, I really want to stress out the 3 main conclusions, what we found out from this research. And first of all, like we see that 93% from all Baltic respondents, they really believe that the equality question is very important, and they really want to live in equal society. But at the same time, almost half of respondents understands and admits that still in reality we do not have the same rights for men and for women. So actually what we see is that society is ready and wants to be in equal society. At the same time, intentions are different from real life. So this is one conclusion. Another one, I should say, like really disturbing and even shocking data is that, can you believe that every second woman feels that she is experiencing gender discrimination very often in her everyday life? One of two each second. It's really, I think, very shocking data. At the same time, to be transparent, we should say also men are experiencing gender discrimination. Only these are much rare occasions. For example, only 6 men out of 100 admits that they are experiencing gender discrimination very often. So this is all about frequency. And the third conclusion, and it's also very surprising, that doesn't matter that we live in 21st century, still our old stereotypes are alive. For example, 41% of respondents believes that women should more take care about kids than men, or 29% believes that men should earn more money than women. And if we go forward to work and occupation, there is good news and bad news, you know, as always. Good news are that majority of Baltic respondents, it's 88%, believes that all the professions are suitable both for men and for women equally. There are no differences. But at the same time, there is prejudice about women being leaders. And when we come to this point, then every 5th respondent believes that men are more suitable for leading big organizations and companies. And many of respondents believe that men are more suitable for such positions as CEO, vice presidents, members of the board directors. So we see that there is still gap and still inequality. And we see also that these are just stereotypes, because when we ask about leadership, then we see that there is no difference, and men and women are equally successful to be leaders in managerial positions. So these are just assumptions and stereotypes. So what we see is that overall stereotypes are very, very alive also at workplace, and not only at workplace but also at home. So, and I believe everything starts from home. If we don't have equality at home, it's very hard to see equality in the work.
Yes, thank you, Agnija, for sharing this. And it's interesting, actually, how these data actually reflects what the situation is. For example, in Latvia, we have only 20% women in the board positions in top 500 business companies here in Latvia. And actually, and the bad news is that there's a tendency that this figure is even decreasing, especially during the COVID and pandemic, where actually women had more work to do also at home, and therefore maybe they didn't have so much, they reduced their career ambitions for the sake of that. But Ilse, I know that you are doing this research also on the Baltic level, and you are doing a lot of qualitative interviews. What are your takeaways from there? What is the status quo at the moment, where we are now?
Yeah, so in a very recent study of mine, I measured the correlation between ESG disclosure levels, so basically the non-financial results of companies, which has been proven to also have positive impact on the financial results, and correlating that with diversity of the company boards for the Baltic listed companies, so for stock listed companies that should sort of be seen as a pioneers in a way, or as a good example for all the privately held businesses that we are seeing here. So on average, what we see there that there are 7.7 members in the upper management, so management and supervisory board, and from that and the listed companies, only 18% are female. And I have to say that's actually a 2 percentage points increase from the data that I had 2 years ago. So there is still a positive trend, but we are still lagging behind the European average, which is 31%. So there's still a way to go. But generally, from my qualitative content analysis of the management and sustainability reports, we can also see that companies that are having more diverse leadership boards, so having actually also females on board, are having also better non-financial results, and thus ultimately having the potential to also reach higher financial results. So we see that this trend is also already here present in the Baltic countries, and companies should just think of ways how to benefit from that actually, because we see that the opportunity is there, and there are so many great potential future leaders here that could be recruited and that actually could have a positive impact also on the pure financial figures.
So opportunities are there.
Opportunities.
Graciela, what about situation in Norway, which, as I said in the beginning, for me it's kind of benchmark, but maybe just my illusion.
No, and we should do the same research in the Nordics as well as an opportunity. No, but overall, as I said, further along when it comes to the path to gender equality. And today, of course, the employment gaps in the Nordics are the lowest, as we know. So generally, men and female kind of share the work when it comes to both paid and unpaid, when it comes to work equality. But also, again, back to when it comes to management representations, we still have a way to go there as well. So we need to just keep on having those measurements and focus on that area.
Thank you. And on a very last note, even though I know that the next panel will be devoted to the issue of, to the question of how, but also from your perspective, what would be your how to progress in this? Agnija.
Yeah, I can start, and I really believe that it's not only about educating society, but also we need to support and empower women on the individual level. Because what I see when I am working with my clients in coaching sessions, I work with beautiful, fantastic women with really high potential, but still we need to work on self-confidence, on courage, on ambition to stand up for their rights. And if I look back in the data what we presented, then these stereotypes, what we were talking about, this is what not only men think, but also women believe in the same stereotypes, that they should stay at home and men should earn more. For example, there was one question: what is your desired salary for your position? And can you believe women asked 15% less than men did, and it is just desire. So what I really believe is that we need to help women to dream big, to feel this ambition and courage to open up our full potential what we have. So that's
Thank you, Agnija. Graciela, what would be your suggestion?
Well, again, it's back to kind of this notion about it's just not about doing good, but also well for the business. And it goes back to, setting the right tone at the top, really setting what is your business, what is your vision for diversity, and also, of course, the whole sustainability agenda. And define the scope, what are your priorities? What is the scoping of the work that we're going to do within our business or corporation. Setting the right measurement in place. It's been mentioned in the previous panel discussion, what gets measured gets done. Follow up, have the right governance in place to do that. And I also think it's really important to be transparent. Be brave and be transparent. And again, share where you are and where you're going. I think that's very important as well.
Thank you. Inga.
Ilse.
Ilse.
Sure. Yeah,
Just called Elaine. I don't know why, but many people call me Elaine.
Okay, Elaine. So I read a recent study by PwC, and they were surveying company directors, and what it showed is that this sort of problem of not having equal representation rights in the boards will not solve itself, you know. So we actually have to do something about it, you know, and we have to speak up. And I think there's a general push already coming in the economy, driven by the legal regulations. So we all know there is a famous quota coming in for 2016, where companies will be forced to have at least 40% of the underrepresented gender, which is usually women, on the executive boards of the company. So that's already a big push. But I think on a more personal note, I'm coming back to what Agnija said, and we have to start with ourselves. We have to speak up. We have to fight the stereotypes back at home. We have to make sure that we also empower our husbands and men at home and partners at home to actually have equal rights at taking care of our kids, you know. So we have to start with ourselves, then the regulation will help us a bit, and I'm sure we will get there.
Yeah, thank you, Ilse. And this, what you said actually is very much how we organize our community around Novator. We also see that to make a real changes happening, we should work in a, let's say, complex way, meaning that, first of all, it's very important, this personal leadership, self-confidence, believing on your core competences and that you can sell them and your ambitions, etc., etc. So this is very important. The second, of course, is this empowerment. We call it corporate governance, corporate diversity management systems, structures. There should be some processes it's organized around. So it's very important. And the last but not least, of course, this what I call advocacy for this topic. In a way, we are making PR for women being successful leaders. But last but not least, and this morning I started at 6 o'clock at the Latvian TV3 morning show, and we came to the conclusion that actually it all should start with such a simple thing, as you, Ilse, mentioned, conversation. So if there's one thing I would invite you to bring from this summit, is to go home and to discuss this topic with your family, with your kids, with your friends, with your colleagues. And I think this is a very great beginning point. So thank you very much. And I give the floor to the next panel.
Thank you.
Thank you.